When you look at this field on Saturday, Jerry, field of 12, how wide open is this race?
It's, you know, we say this a lot in racing, but like a couple years ago, American Pharoah looked like a standout. That's not the case this year. This is as wide open as I've seen it. And generally, I can form a pretty good opinion along with my colleague Randy Moss, and we're both kind of finding it hard to narrow it down to much less than 4 or 5 horses.
When you look at it overall, you know, how much does it hurt the race? First time since 2010, no Derby winner and no Preakness winner. How much does that hurt this race on Saturday?
Yeah, it takes some of the luster out of it. You know, it'd be nice to, even Classic Empire, who didn't win the first 2, was in up until a couple of days ago, and he's the leading 3-year-old in the country. But it's still important. It's still a classic, one of only 3. It's still $1.5 million, and if one of these 3-year-olds wins and then gets another win later in the summer and maybe adds one in the fall, they could be 3-year-old of the year over the Derby and Preakness winner. So it's still very important, and it's full of storylines. We've got a horse from Japan. We've got a horse with Irish in his name. We've got a one-eyed horse and one named Tom. So, yeah, this is a full field at the Belmont.
Well, you mentioned one of them. How about the morning line favorite there, Jerry? How about Irish War Cry for Graham Motion? You know, ran okay in the Derby, backed up down the stretch. Wasn't expected to partake in either the Preakness or the Belmont. Has had 5 weeks in between races. What do you think of the morning line favorite?
Well, I like him. I picked him in the Derby, but he's a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. Right here in New York was his best race over at Aqueduct leading up to the Kentucky Derby. He won that race, the Wood Memorial, in the best race of his career, and then, of course, he flopped in the Derby and really wasn't expected to come back in the Belmont, but he's been training so well, according to his trainer, Graham Motion, that they decided to put him in. He's the most talented horse, in my opinion, of the ones in the race, but the question is the 1.5 miles. And nobody can really tell whether these 3-year-olds can truly excel at this distance. They've never been this far before, probably will never again, so that's a huge question mark every year with these 3-year-olds. When
you look at this race, Jerry, you know, You're a veteran of the Naira circuit when you were putting together that Hall of Fame career. What makes the Belmont such a rider's race?
Well, it's because as riders, we don't do this very often. As a matter of fact, most of us only ride 1.5 miles on the dirt, 1 loop around once a year, maybe twice. They do have the Brooklyn here before the Belmont, which that's 1.5 miles. But other than that, we just don't do this very often, so we're not used to it. And it's very easy to get lost on these big turns at Belmont, not knowing exactly where you are in relation to the finish wire. And since we don't ride 1.5 miles on the dirt very often, the pace is not real familiar with it. So it's easy for a jockey to, number one, not to forget how fast he's going and kind of to lose himself on this track and not know where to move. So there's plenty of room for error for us jockeys, believe me.
Who do you like to win the race? You mentioned earlier you and Randy can't find a winner, but if I had to pin you down, Jerry, where are you going to go in this field of 12?
Well, since I picked him in the Derby, and I think he's probably the most talented horse in the race, I'm still going to go with Irish War Cry and hope the good one shows up and not the phony one.